All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're talking about a radically simple and pretty controversial investment path for anyone who feels like they have zero financial knowledge. So, here's the core idea we're unpacking today, and it comes directly from our source material. The thesis is this: if you're a beginner, just buy the NASDAQ index or Bitcoin. That's it. Everything else, just noise, totally irrelevant to you. Now, that is a wildly bold statement, so let's break down the thinking behind it.
Okay, I can already hear the gears turning. Advice this simple brings up a ton of questions and, let's be real, a lot of fear. So before we go any further, we're going to tackle those fears head on.
This has to be the #1 question every single new investor asks. It just feels so logical, right? Buy low, sell high. So you should wait for the price to drop. But is waiting for that perfect moment really the smart move?
Well, according to the source material, this whole concept is basically a trap. Think about it. What even is a dip? Do you seriously expect prices to go back to where they were 10 years ago? The whole idea that you can perfectly time the market, that you can catch this magical low point, it's just fundamentally flawed.
And here's the psychological trap in a nutshell. The dream, of course, is that you're a genius who swoops in and buys at the absolute bottom. But the reality? It's pure emotional paralysis. When prices are actually dropping, your brain isn't calm. It's screaming, is this the bottom? What if it crashes even more? That hesitation, that indecision, almost always means you missed the boat entirely. It's just not a strategy you can rely on long term.
Okay, fine. So waiting for a dip is a bad idea. But what about the complete opposite fear? What if my timing is just horrible and I put all my money in right before a massive, gut-wrenching crash?
And look, this is a totally legitimate fear. The source doesn't brush it aside. If you had bought the NASDAQ at the absolute peak of the dot-com bubble, it would have taken you over 10 years just to get back to even. Or if you bought Bitcoin at its peak 4 years ago, you wouldn't have even doubled your money by today. So yes, it can happen.
But here's the crucial piece of context. Those worst-case scenarios, they're the extreme exceptions, not the rule. For almost any other period you could pick, this dead simple strategy would have made you a lot of money, enough to outperform most of the pros, and frankly, enough to make people who studied finance for a decade feel a little embarrassed.
So, if market timing is a trap, what's the real answer? Well, this leads us to a way more powerful and way less stressful strategy. It's all about consistency.
It's a little something called dollar cost averaging, or DCA for short. The idea is so simple. You invest the same amount of money on a regular schedule, like every single month, and you do it no matter what. Market's up, you buy. Market's down, you buy. This simple habit can drastically cut down how long it takes to recover, even if you started at a terrible time.
It really breaks down into these simple steps. You pick a schedule, you pick an amount, and then you just stick to it. You buy when it's expensive, you buy when it's cheap. But the most important part, the absolute non-negotiable heart of this whole thing, is consistency. You have to be relentless. And let's be 100% clear on this point. Throwing money in only when you remember to, or when you're feeling good about the market, and then pulling back when you get scared, that is not dollar cost averaging. That's just letting your emotions drive, and it's a surefire recipe for getting wrecked.
So the how-to part seems pretty straightforward, right? But the real challenge with this strategy, it has nothing to do with charts or finance books. It's something much, much harder.
Let's just take a step back. Buy the NASDAQ or Bitcoin, do it consistently, and you make money. Doesn't that sound almost a little too easy? And the source material basically says, yeah, it is that simple. But there's a huge catch. It only works on one condition. You have to have what the source calls blind trust in these two assets. And that, my friends, is where things get really, really difficult. Why is it so hard? Because every single day you're hit with a massive wall of noise. You go online and for the NASDAQ, it's probably a 50-50 split between it's a great buy and it's about to crash. And for Bitcoin, forget about it. The voices yelling that it's a scam going to zero are way, way louder than the ones saying it's the future. Trying to keep the faith in the middle of that storm is the real battle.
So if you need this blind trust, where does it come from? How do you build it? Well, the argument is that it's not built on charts, but on holding a few very specific and often very unpopular beliefs about where the world is headed.
And here they are. Belief number 1, that the U.S. is going to stay on top in the game of global competition. Belief number 2, that the U.S. will keep its lead in game-changing tech like AI.
And belief number 3, that blockchain is going to completely rewrite the rules of money and finance. Now, if you go online and say these things out loud, get ready, because you will likely get a ton of hate for it. This quote just nails the mindset you have to adopt. Can you look at everyone around you, at all the noise, at all the mockery and doubt, and still truly believe, deep down, that you're the one seeing things clearly while everyone else is lost?
And make no mistake, that is psychologically exhausting. When the market turns against you and your portfolio is in the red, people online will be laughing at you. They'll use you as an example of what not to do. You'll be called all sorts of names. Trying to resist that constant daily pressure takes an incredible amount of guts.
Which brings us to the final and most powerful idea behind all of this. What you're really doing with this strategy isn't just buying assets. You're buying a very specific vision of the future.
The future is being defined by things like AI, robotics, and this idea of an on-chain economy, which is just a fancy way of saying finance and real-world assets being built on blockchains. And who is building that future? It's the big tech giants in the NASDAQ, and it's the foundational protocols like Bitcoin. You're aligning your money with the people and projects actively building tomorrow.
The source material calls this the Great Delusion. See, disruptive innovation creates wealth so incredibly fast that it makes everything else less valuable in comparison. So you really only have 2 choices. You can own the assets that are doing the disrupting and be on the side that's diluting others, or you can own the old world assets and get diluted yourself, because their growth just can't keep up.
And we're going to end on this idea right here. If you can truly get your head around this, if you can build that deep level of conviction, so deep that you can ignore all the noise, stick to your plan, and truly believe in the future you're investing in, well, that conviction is worth more than any fancy finance degree you could ever hang on your wall.
Smash like and subscribe.